Distingués délégués, priez de prendre place s'il vous plaît. Nous allons poursuivre les travaux.
Dear delegates, please take your seats.
Je vous remercie.
I would like to thank you. Distinguished delegates, we will restart our meeting. My co-chair and I would like to ask you to please take your seats.
Nous sommes ravis de vous revoir.
We are delighted to see so many of you here once again. We are coming towards the end of the work of the preparatory segment. The meetings of the open-end working group have enabled us to look at several items on the agenda. They have enabled us to finalize and consolidate the draft decisions to be submitted to the high-level segment. At present, we would like to hear reports back from the various contact groups for consideration. I would like to ask the chair of the Budget Committee to please report back on their work.
Allemagne, vous avez la parole, s'il vous plaît.
Germany, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. So this week the Budget Committee has held several meetings and all of them were held in a very constructive manner. We reviewed the proposed 2024 budgets for the Montreal Protocol Trust Fund and as well the financial reports. We took note of the 2025 indicative budget prepared by the Executive Secretary, and we managed also to complete our work. The Budget Committee yesterday approved a budget of $5,852,835 and a draft decision for considerations by the parties. The committee also approved the contributions to be paid by the parties in the amount of $3,743,009 for 2024 and took note of the contributions for 2025. The draft decision authorized the Executive Secretary to exceptionally take an amount of up to $400,091,550 US from the cash balance for specific activities listed in Table A of the annex to be present in the decision we present to the for consideration by the parties. These specific activities listed in Table A include an indicative amount for a workshop in 2024 as requested in a draft decision. Thank you very much.
Merci à l'honneur.
I thank the distinguished delegate of Germany who chaired over the work over the Budget Committee. We have seen they've made good progress, and we think that that work is therefore ready to be forwarded to the high-level segment for consideration as appropriate. I would once again like to thank the Budget Committee for the arduous work that they have carried out, which has enabled such an outcome to be achieved. So thank you very much once again. I'll now go on to the next item on the agenda, on the consideration of the membership of Montreal Protocol bodies. So I'd like to ask the Secretariat to please present the current situation.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair, and good evening. Consultations by regions and groups relating to the nominations and selections of the persons and parties for election and selection to the different bodies of the Montreal Protocol was completed. All the names nominated and selected are reflected on the website, and those names of individuals and parties as appropriate will be included in the draft decisions relating to these bodies. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Nous remercions le secrétariat.
I thank the Secretariat for the information provided, and we will pass those on. And the high-level segment will consider it. We now move on to item 6 on stratospheric aerosol injection and protection of the ozone layer. I would like to ask interested parties who took part in informal discussions on the margins of our meeting to report back on those discussions. I'll give the floor to Australia for their report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair, and good evening to everyone. Yes, so we had a number of informal consultations on the margins of the meeting in relation to the draft CRP we had submitted at the OEWG. This was both bilaterals as well as meeting in an informal group at one point as well. These consultations were with the parties that had intervened in the plenary session, expressing interest in the decision, and also, of course, with the SAP representative to provide clarifications and information on how this decision would be interpreted. So after some edits to the draft decision, we're happy to present CRP 13 to the meeting of parties. The CRP is slightly changed from the one that was presented to OEWG. One of the preambular paragraphs has been removed, and there is a slight wording change to paragraph 1. So with that quick summary, I'm sure we've got a lot to get through tonight. I'd like to ask that parties consider forwarding this to the high-level segment for approval. Thank you, Co-Chair.
Merci beaucoup.
I thank the distinguished delegate of Australia. Thank you for clearly setting out that situation. So CRP 1 was finalised and is ready to be forwarded to the high-level segment. On that note, we would like to once again thank you for your work. We will now move on to the next item on our agenda. That is on the proposed adjustments with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. We will hear from the chair of the contact group established on that topic, who led the work. We would like them to report back on that work. So I would please ask either the distinguished delegation of Australia or Argentina to report back on the outcome of that work. Thank you. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Where do I start on this one? I'll give you the headline. A CRP has been agreed for presentation to the plenary and hopefully for forwarding to the high-level segment. This was a difficult and complex issue to work through, and I would just like to offer my sincere thanks, as well as Juan's, for the cooperation and innovation of the contact group. At the start of the contact group, I had no idea where it was going to end up, but I think with the spirit of cooperation in the group, we've ended up with a good decision. First of all, in working through this, there was a list of just over 20 countries who had indicated that they may have problems in meeting the 2024 compliance target and had asked to be considered for flexibility. The contact group looked at this on the basis of the data presented and took very much a data-driven approach to developing a solution. From there, criteria was agreed, and parties, and 8 parties demonstrated that they met the criteria. And that criteria being ultimately that they will may have difficulties meeting the 2024 compliance target. I'll first of all present the CRP, but then there are a few comments that need to be reflected in the report. The CRP should be on the website, so it's CRP 18. It's quite a simple decision. I certainly don't intend to take you through the preambular paragraphs. But the 2 operative paragraphs, first of all, listing the 8 parties in the annex that have demonstrated that they will have difficulties meeting the 2024 compliance targets. And the second operative paragraph is urging parties that are listed in the annex to submit Kigali implementation plans for consideration of the Executive Committee as soon as possible. So that's it, quite a simple decision from a complex discussion. But as I said, there are a few points that need to be noted. First of all, in operative paragraph 1, the decision agreed was that compliance would be deferred until 2026 for the parties listed in the annex. However, a number of parties indicated that they may potentially still have difficulties meeting the compliance targets when it comes to 2026. And those parties do retain the flexibility to return to the meeting of parties in 2026 to seek a 1 or 2 year extension should they have data demonstrating they are still having difficulties reaching the compliance target. A further 4 parties, Barbados, Ethiopia, Grenada and Belize indicated concern about meeting the compliance targets, but did not have sufficient data to meet the criteria the contact group had agreed on. These countries could come back next year if their data demonstrates compliance difficulties due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Just a further note on this, and I guess all parties have experienced this over the course of the week. It has been a really busy meeting, and I note in particular a few of the 4 parties that I mentioned were unable to attend the contact group to present their data personally. So that was unfortunate. I guess it's such a busy meeting that it's everything doesn't quite work out the way that you'd want it. So I would just reiterate that those 4 parties, if they are able to present further data to demonstrate they may run into difficulties, the MOP could consider that next year. Given this is quite a complex subject, I just want to check with my co-chair, I'm promoting him co-convener, to see if I've missed anything important that should be reported to the plenary. So, Juan, is there anything that you feel like I've missed? Oh, and thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Argentine, vous avez...
Argentina, do you have something to add to this? You have the floor.
Señor copresidente.
Thank you, Co-Chair. We would also like to thank everyone who took part in the work. I think they were very flexible in this arduous work, in particular the Cuban delegation that was at all the meetings. So in this regard, we would also like to express that we reached our agreement thanks to flexibility from Cuba. As was said by our distinguished colleague from Australia. So we're able to review the situation, or we will review the situation in 2026. So I'd really like to thank all the participants, and in particular, my colleague who was coordinating with me, and also thank you to the co-chairs for all the extra time allocated to us. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much to the co-facilitators. Now, this was very clear. The summary was very clear, quite precise. We'd like to thank you for it. And of course, we also thank you for the results obtained. We count on you and will continue to count on you for your help when the time comes to update this text. I see here that a number of parties have requested the floor. We have Grenada, we have Barbados. So I'm going to start with the distinguished delegate of Grenada. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Co-Chair, for affording me this opportunity. I want to join in the chorus to thank the co-chairs for doing a very outstanding job, and to agree with you that they have really provided a simplified report for us, very concise. And in my honest opinion, the length of the report alone gives a good measure of the complexity of the issue that they had to preside over within the contact group. A couple of things, there's one clarification point I would like the co-chairs to provide, and then I would like to make a comment. With regards to the clarification, the co-chair did mention a group of countries for which he indicated sufficient data was not provided. And amongst those countries mentioned was Grenada. And as far as I know, data for 2018, 2019, all the way up to 2022 was provided. So I'm not too sure if Grenada was meant to be included in those countries that have not provided sufficient data. So I'm seeking some clarification on that. The second comment I would like to make is with regards to one of the points raised by the co-convener of the group, with reference to parties with small or limited delegations that have to compete amongst the various contact groups that are occurring in parallel. And that grossly disadvantaged Grenada's delegation because of the numerous contact groups that are occurring at the same time, and did not afford us the right opportunity to present our case within the contact group. We are happy, however, that we still have an opportunity to come back to the meeting at a future date and justify our position. But we just wanted to raise the point that the Secretariat needs to look at this issue as well to avoid, as much as possible, some of these important contact groups occurring in parallel to prevent countries from having a good and fair opportunity to present and to defend their cases within the contact group. Thank you very much, Mr. Co-Chair.
Merci à l'honneur.
Thank you so much, the distinguished delegate of Grenada. Questions were asked, but before I give the floor to the co-facilitators of this group on the work, I would like to give the floor to Barbados. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair, and thank you to the co-facilitators for the report. Before I continue, this would be the first time I'm taking the floor in this body, so I just wish to extend my thanks to the government and people of Kenya and to the Ozone Secretariat for the organization of the meeting. I would just like to clarify that we requested in the contact group for it to be recorded in the report that Barbados did not agree with the years used as the criteria to assess our country's particular situation. I also wish to say, though, I thank the parties within the contact group for their flexibility in indicating that we could possibly present our case in the future, but I just want it to be stated that we did not agree with the use of the years 2018 and 2019 for the assessment of our case. Thank you.
Merci à l'honorable délégué de la Barre.
Thank you to the distinguished delegate of Barbados. I have two more parties having requested for the floor. We have Cuba and we have Australia. Now, if there are any other parties who wish to speak to this agenda item, please press your buttons and request the floor. Otherwise, I'm going to close the list with the two countries that we have on the list currently. So I'm going to start by giving the floor to the distinguished delegate of Cuba for his statement.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Australia and Argentina, our co-facilitators in the contact group. As has been mentioned by the co-facilitator of Australia, we would be interested in having in writing in the report of the meeting the list of countries already registered and approved within the contact group, and with the will set out that in 2 years, if we can, if not in compliance, we can come back to the MOP and have an extension until 2028. We know this very difficult situation. The baseline is very far below what the real consumption has been prior to the pandemic. So it makes it very difficult for countries, we don't say impossible, but very difficult to remain in compliance under the Montreal Protocol. Thank you very much.
Merci à l'honorable délégué.
Thank you to the distinguished delegate of Cuba for the clarifications he has provided us. I'm now going to give the floor to Australia, the distinguished delegate of Australia, for answers to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair, and my apologies for not precisely describing the data situation, and also my apologies to the delegation from Grenada for presenting in obviously not a good shorthand form the considerations. Yes, indeed, can confirm that Grenada did provide all the data that had been requested. The clarification is that as we were working through the approach to developing the list of countries and solutions, there was criteria established on what were the, I guess, how to describe this now, it does get complicated. Essentially, was looking at whether sufficient data had been provided to support the contention that they would exceed the 2024 compliance target due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The 8 countries that are in the annex satisfied the contact group that based on their consumption in 2018 and 2019 as compared with the consumption in the baseline years and as compared with the HFC baseline, that they would indeed have difficulty achieving the 2024 compliance targets. Other countries or other parties that provided all the data did not demonstrate that they would have difficulties achieving the 2024 compliance target. That's not to say that they will not have difficulties, and indeed there are a number of the delegations who were able to attend the contact group were able to describe the situation in their countries and how they may indeed have difficulties with 2024. And that's why the opportunity is there for those countries, including Grenada, to come back next year with data and have that considered by the meeting of parties. So my apologies again to the delegation of Grenada for misrepresenting the information that you had provided. I hope that clarifies.
Merci beaucoup à l'honneur.
Thank you so much, the distinguished delegate of Australia. Even though a number of points were not stipulated ahead of time, we were able to get these points and we have a better understanding of the situation. We propose to forward this document, the CRP8, which is ready, to the high-level segment. If there are no further comments or objections to this. I see no objections, so we're going to forward this CRP to the high-level segment. We're going to move on to the next item, that of energy efficiency and low or zero global warming potential technologies. Informal discussions were held on the margins of our meeting, and yesterday already Norway reported to us that consultations did take place, and it seems that results were achieved. I would like to give the floor to one of the parties to report to us regarding the results thus obtained.
Norway,
Distinguished Delegate of Norway, you have the floor.
Thank you, Co-Chair. The informal group on energy efficiency had the chance to meet shortly this afternoon, and recognizing the lack of time to engage on this matter at this meeting, the group agreed to work further on the basis of a short and simple decision that would request the TIP to take into consideration the discussions that have been occurring at this meeting and providing updates accordingly in their progress report in 2024. The informal group agreed then to submit the CRP as a product of the group. It has been posted on the portal as CRP 15. And before we go through the CRP, I would like to communicate the great interest expressed by several parties on this matter and the wish to have more time next year to engage more extensively on this subject. So now I will read the CRP that has been submitted by the informal group. It's really short. The 35th meetings of the parties decides to request the Technology and Economic Assessment Panel to include in its 2024 progress report updates on the information identified in para 1A of decision 34.3, taking into account discussion at the 35th meetings of the parties. And to give some more clarity on the text, the para 1A of the decision 34.3 is a list of elements that the TIP was requested to include in its 2023 progress report. I would like to express my gratitude to the parties that work in the margin on drafting a text that enabled the group to reach quickly an agreement. And I hope that the parties can agree to forward the CRP to the high-level segment for adoption. Thank you, Co-Chair.
merci à l'honorable.
Thank you so much, the distinguished delegate of Norway, who has, in a very comprehensive and yet succinct way, presented results achieved to us. Now, I turn to you and ask whether any parties wish to react to what was just presented for consideration.
Je ne vois pas.
I see none. So having said this, we would propose to forward this document to the high-level segment for its consideration.
Le document sur.
So we're going to forward this document to the high-level segment as asked for by the parties. I'm going to move on to the next agenda item.
Veuillez nous excuser pour.
Now we apologize for this brief interruption. We're going to look now at very short-lived substances. And we're going to hear from one of the participants in the work of the informal working group on this topic. And we'll have them report to us on results obtained. So, we turn to Rihanna to help us.
Yeah, Czechoslovakia.
Czech Republic, rather. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. The Combined Informal Group on Very Short-Lived Substances and Quarantine Imprisonment QPS uses of methyl bromide met several times during this week. The group today reached consensus on item of very short-lived substances. Agreed text asked TEEP and SAP in its 2024 progress report updated information on very short-lived substances and on their alternatives in the main applications for which they are currently used. And it's now available at the meeting portal as the CRP 12. The group concluded its work with no agreement on the text of QPS uses of methyl bromide. Mr. Co-Chair, on behalf of myself and of my co-facilitator, I would like to thank the parties for their work done in both items which the group dealt with. Thank you so much.
Merci à l'honorable.
Thank you so much to the distinguished delegate. And congratulations on the work carried out. It's not always easy, but as a result of your personal involvement and all of your hard work, including that of the rest of the group, we were able to come up with a document which we will be able to forward to the high-level segment. We'll now turn to all the other parties to see whether there are any reactions regarding what we have just heard. So, there don't seem to be any reactions. So what we're going to do is we're going to forward this document to the high-level segment for its consideration. I'm now going to hand back to my co-chair for the rest of the items to be tackled. You have the floor, Ralph.
Thank you, Fidemer. First of all, I would like to go to agenda item 4, replenishment of and the contact group that was on the replenishment and the firm. And I don't know who's going to report back, Mexico, Sergio, or Alain from Belgium. I see here Mexico.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. My co-chair, who I have the honor to be accompanied here in the same desk, because we are quite pleased, but also very proud of the work that was achieved by our contact group. We are pleased to report that we reached an agreement in terms of the replenishment for the Multilateral Fund for the period 2024-2026, which was the result of several sessions in which we had sometimes tough negotiations, but always filled with the spirit of collaboration between both A2 and A5 parties. And perhaps we are particularly proud that we reached this achievement even before 10 p.m., which might in itself set a record, I don't know, maybe, but we are proud of that. So we are happy to report that it was agreed that the fund would be replenished in the amount of $965 million for this period, and a document was prepared, so that's the good news. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Thank you, Mexico, for reporting back and for the result you achieved during the, let's say, the last days when you had the contact group. I see I have Russian Federation on my list.
Thank you so much, Mr. Co-Chair. Now, regarding the approval of the regular budget of the Multilateral Fund, our delegation would like to note the position of the Russian Federation regarding financial obligations to the Multilateral Fund, which is included in the statement made by the Russian delegation during the adoption of the amendment to the Montreal Protocol on the regulation of HFCs, and the use of the financial mechanism of the Multilateral Fund for its implementation. This was in Kigali, in Rwanda, in October 2016. And the statement made in Kigali stated that Russia will view contributions to the Multilateral Fund for managing HFCs as exclusively voluntary in nature. This statement was also made on behalf of Belarus, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. It is quite clear that in point 2, or paragraph 2 of this CRP, countries with economies in transition cover those countries which I have just listed, including the Russian Federation. We would also like to draw the attention of all the delegates to the fact that existing difficulties experienced by Russia in terms of transferring funds to the Multilateral Fund are the results of circumstances which are not within the force of the Russian Federation to correct. It's as a result of the constraints imposed by the United States and others on international transfers and transfers from Russia of US dollars. For this reason, we cannot agree with paragraph 2 of the proposed decision, and we would ask you to delete this paragraph from the decision. I thank you.
Thank you, Russian Federation. We heard what you said, so I would like to hear also if there are other delegations who would like to take the floor. Yes, I see Australia.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair, and we welcome the agreement that has been made and laid out in CRP 19. However, Australia's forward estimated budget for the MLF replenishment is less than the amount that has been agreed by parties. We do remain committed to the Multilateral Fund and will work with our domestic budget processes at home to try and close this gap. Thank you, Co-Chair.
Thank you, Australia. Are there other delegations that would like to take the floor? Canada?
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank the co-chairs of the contact group on the replenishment, Alain from Belgium and Sergio from Mexico, for guiding us through these very complex negotiations. But also a special thanks to our Article 5 colleagues who we negotiated throughout the week and who I think showed a great amount of intelligence and sensitivity during these negotiations. There was a sense of camaraderie, despite the fact that for some parts of the negotiations we experienced some particular challenges. But I think thanks to their patience, understanding, flexibility, as well, I could say the same of our non-Article 5 colleagues who also participated with a lot of flexibility in those negotiations. Thanks to all these parties, we're arriving at this agreement, which is the highest replenishment budget of the Multilateral Fund, 965 million. So that's the good news. Now, with respect to the proposed deletion of paragraph 2, I think that this is a paragraph that we've had under the decisions on the replenishment since the beginning. I'm not sure about the implications of simply deleting this paragraph. I understand the reasons that have been provided for it, but I would like to maybe take a bit of time to consider what has been proposed, perhaps have some bilateral discussions, and perhaps come back afterwards with regards to the actual adoption of this proposed decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Canada. Are there other delegations who would like to take the floor? Russian Federation and then the US.
Thank you so much, Mr. Co-Chair. Now, concerning the comment made by the distinguished delegate of Canada regarding the fact that more time might be necessary for discussion. Now, in our view, we, in any case, will not agree to any other option. We have provided the grounds for our position, and we will simply not agree with having this paragraph remain in the decision. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to give the floor then to the US and then to Egypt.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Just to express from our delegation standpoint a concern about deleting this paragraph. There's long-standing precedent in this body to include this specific language in replenishment decisions. And I'm sure as many colleagues know, there's a reason for it. And the reason is that the country that is objecting has for a long period of time had underfunded pledges as a non-Article 5 country in the replenishments for many, many years. So from our perspective, we've understood some of the difficulties with contributing for the particular countries that are referenced here, but they're not providing the support that Article 2 countries have historically been providing to the Article 5 countries in this room. Furthermore, we understood one of the references of concern to be related to the statement made at the adoption of the Kigali Amendment. But the time period that is referenced here is 2021 to 2023. While the Kigali Amendment was adopted in 2016, financing for the Kigali Amendment has barely begun. The time period 2021 to 2023 has predominantly focused in the Multilateral Fund on providing support to Article 5 countries to actually implement their obligations for other controlled substances. Only a tiny fraction of money has moved into any HFC-related projects. So we do recall the statement that was made in 2016. We don't think it is particularly applicable to the paragraph that they are seeking to delete. So I think this intervention from our perspective is quite unfortunate. It reflects a lack of support to the Article 5 countries, and in fact puts in jeopardy a decision that was hard negotiated, was difficult to agree here, and that includes by far, the largest level of support for Article 5 countries from the non-Article 5 countries that are choosing to provide contributions to the fund to support you. So I would agree with our colleagues from Canada. It's not as simple as simply deleting this paragraph. And I think if there was a desire to delete this, for our delegation, we certainly would have appreciated it if this issue had been raised during the time period when there were many, many discussions taking place about putting together this draft decision, which was agreed after many hours of negotiations. I thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Thank you. I see the Russian Federation would like to take the floor. And are there any other speakers? Russian Federation, please.
Thank you so much, Co-Chair. We would like to here note that in paragraph 2, one refers not just to countries which are in arrears for the period, for the years 21 to 23, but to countries with economies in transition. And it is these countries that made a statement in Kigali. And the position of these states was one, or is one rather, which is well known. And in our view, if we delete this paragraph, this would in no way have any impact on the other provisions of this decision. It'll have no impact on them. We, unfortunately, cannot agree with having this paragraph remain in the decision. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to have a few moments with my co-chair. Thank you. We heard interventions from several parties on this issue. And our proposal is, and I would look again to our co-chairs who chaired this group and did a great job, if they maybe at the back of the room, together with some parties who are interested, could look at this para and see if there's a solution on this that could be presented later during this meeting. So the proposal would be to have a small group, maybe in the back of this hall, to look at this text and see if there can be a solution found. And then interested parties would like to join. Is that agreeable? I see Russian Federation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Co-Chair. We would like to add some clarity to our position regarding this item. The Russian Federation considers contributions to the Multilateral Fund to be voluntary ones. And we, during the period which we refer to, for which there are arrears by countries with economies in transition, did pay contributions. For 2021, we paid our contributions. But for 2022 and 2023, we simply don't have the ability to pay as a result of sanctions imposed by the United States of America, which are blocking us. Now, as far as the upcoming period from 24 to 26, we are ready to pay. It's not that we don't want to pay, but we will make contributions as long as they're considered to be voluntary ones. And as a result of this, we cannot agree that these outstanding arrears, or that the Russian Federation has arrears for a period during which it made voluntary contributions and on 2 occasions was not able to make contributions as a result of factors which are outside of its control. Thank you.
Thank you for this clarification. And then I would reiterate my proposal. If a small group, and with the lead of the co-chairs of the replenishment, could maybe come together the back of the room to see if there can be a solution found on this issue. And then interested parties could join, and then we could come back later on this decision. Russian Federation. United States.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. If your preference is to have such a small discussion, we do not have an objection to that. I do, however, wish to provide a factual clarification, and I would refer colleagues to document 3 of the 92nd meeting of the Executive Committee to the Multilateral Fund. My main point is that this is not an issue of payments for 2 years. The underfunding of pledges for the Russian Federation goes back for decades. And in fact, if you look at the aforementioned document, it describes the historic record of pledges by governments, and the underfunded pledges by the Russian Federation are $125 million out of 170 million pledged. So this issue is not a 2-year issue. We don't quibble with the comments with respect to whether they're voluntary contributions or not. Nevertheless, the underfunded pledges over the history of the fund are quite substantial, and the consequences of that to other donor countries are quite substantial, because what it means is that other Article 2 donor countries have had to pick up the slack for the underfunded pledges. So in effect, my country and the other non-Article 5 countries find themselves paying more than they should have to into the multilateral fund. And the reason for that is because one country has underfunded their pledges by $125 million. So for my own country, which pays, let's say, roughly 22%, but it's not 22%. We pay almost 24% because some countries are underfunding their pledges. It's almost $30 million extra that we have had to pay because the Article 5 countries need this support to implement their obligations under the Montreal Protocol. So I say again, listen, it's difficult for all of us. We work really hard every 3 years to come up with a replenishment that is acceptable, is a balance between Article 5 and non-Article 5 countries. And then when we do, many countries have then gone home and worked very, very hard to deliver the resources needed by Article 5 countries to assist them in the transition. But some of us are having to work extra hard because other donor countries are not meeting their pledges. So finally, sir, it's not a 1 or 2 year issue. It's $125 million since the inception of the fund. And for other donor countries, it really makes it quite hard. It puts stress on our systems. It puts stress on this system. And we will happily meet in the back of the room, but strongly urge that we adopt this replenishment decision to adopt a record amount of funding in the multilateral fund, $965 million, to which some Article 5 countries are hereby notifying us that they're going to continue the past practice of underfunding the pledges. So my country will plan to continue its strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. And I really would like to ask parties who are interested to go to the back of the room to find a solution for this, because it's quite important to find a solution because there's a lot of things at stake. I see that the Russian Federation would like to add something.
Thank you so much, Co-Chair. We would like to react to the statement just made by the distinguished delegate of the United States of America. Two main points. Firstly, the adoption of decisions regarding the creation of the Multilateral Fund for the implementation of the Montreal Protocol was taken during a period when the Soviet Union still existed. And the delegation of the Soviet Union made a statement regarding the fact that it intended to make its contribution in kind rather than in cash. This statement is one which is contained in the documents of that session. That's the first point. Secondly, regarding the underfunded pledges or arrears, in 2013, as a result of lengthy negotiations, the delegation of the Russian Federation concluded an agreement in accordance with which it pledged to start paying contributions to the multilateral fund in the full volume of its assessed contribution. And the arrears of $105 million essentially were covered. So we fulfilled these conditions. And during the period running from 2013 to 2020, the Russian Federation fully paid its contributions to the tune of $42 million, 930,000 US dollars. $42,930,000 US dollars. For this reason, we believe that the comments made were not quite appropriate, especially regarding the fact that the Russian Federation has arrears of over 120 million US dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. I think your intervention is well noted and also will be appearing in the report. What I will now, and that's my last sentence, what I would like to really urge, please, interested parties to find a solution for this para too, in a way that can go further and to have a decision adopted on this important funding for Article 5 countries. So the co-chairs of the group on replenishment are available. So I really would like to ask parties who are interested to join the co-chairs somewhere in the back of the room. So please, Russian Federation, if you could join that group and to find a solution together with others, that would be my way forward, I propose. So, thank you. And other parties who would like to join, please go at the back. Please go around the co-chairs in the back of the room. Then I would like to propose that I continue with the other items and we hear what comes out of this small group. And we come back to it later. First of all, the agenda point 5, potential areas of focus for the for the Quadrennial report and for the terms of reference on the Quadrennial report. I would like to ask Grenada or USA to report back, but I expect it will be USA. Cindy, you had a very long time of working, and please, you have the floor.
Many thanks, Mr. Co-Chair, and it's a pleasure to report out on CRP 11 on the potential areas of focus on the next Quadrennial assessment report for terms of reference for our panels for the 2026 report. We did have some very long sessions and a number of sessions, and we were lucky enough to have the evening session after the reception, where parties came in very good spirits after the dancing and the very lovely reception that the Secretariat hosted. I would like to just add that parties worked in a very cooperative spirit. We had the benefit of having our experts from the 3 panels, the Science Assessment Panel, the Environmental Effects Panel, and the Technology and Economic Assessment Panel available in the room for questions that the parties had. The draft decision laying out the terms of reference for the 3 panels has been posted, I believe, since this morning in the portal. And I would ask on behalf of my co-chair and the members of the contact group that it be forwarded to the high-level segment for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you for this positive message and all the hard work you have done. And indeed, the dancing and then working had its effect. So is it agreeable to all parties that it will be forwarded to the high-level segment? I don't see any objections, so then I will continue on agenda item 9B, emission of HFC 23, and the outcome of the contact group. Who could I give the floor? Barbados.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. The contact group on emissions of HFC 23 met 5 times. I am pleased to report that the group made significant progress and as such was able to reach consensus on the text of the CRP. Therefore, CRP 16 is recommended to be put forward to the high-level segment for consideration. And on behalf of myself and my co-chair, Heidi, I wish to thank all delegates for their hard work and cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you on this positive message on the outcome, and I would like to thank you for all the hard work and as co-chairs in this group. Is everybody ready to send this item HFC 23 to the high-level segment? I don't see any objections, so then I would like to go to agenda item 12, the shared responsibility on dumping of inefficient equipment, and I would like to go to the contact group on dumping. And I see that United States, Karen, pushed the button, so please, United States, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. We have very good news to report. Our contact group was able to reach consensus on a draft decision, and that draft is available on the meeting portal as CRP 14. The draft decision speaks to the import and export of prohibited cooling equipment. My co-convener and I want to express our deep gratitude to all the parties for their spirit of collaboration and flexibility that was pervasive in the room. We're also grateful to the Secretariat for their support. We would request that the draft decision be forwarded to the high-level segment for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. That's indeed good news. So another contact group could conclude its work in a very positive manner. So and I would like to thank you and your co-chair for all the hard work on this. Is the room ready to send this CRP to the high-level segment? There's agreement. Then I would like to go to agenda item 16, the life cycle refrigerant management, the contact group on refrigerant management. And I see that Martijn from the Netherlands has asked for the floor. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair and dear colleagues. Together with my co-facilitator Indrisi from Nigeria, I am pleased to announce that having had several sessions in our contact group in a very constructive atmosphere, we are ready to present a draft decision, CRP4, which is posted on the portal. And we would like to ask parties to forward this draft decision on life cycle refrigerant management to the high-level segment of this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martijn, and thank you for all the good news. And I would like to thank you and your co-chair for all the hard work. And I would like to ask the room if everybody is ready to send it to the high-level segment. We will do so. There's no objection. And it's 4 Rev 1, CRP 4 Rev 1. Then I would like to go to the informal group on CTC and feedstocks. And I would like to ask the co-facilitators to report back. Canada.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Facilitator. I would like to report on the work of the informal group tasked to discuss the proposals presented under Agenda Item 13 related to CTC and Agenda Item 14B related to feedstock uses, which met throughout the week. The group split its time between both issues and participants contributed positively to the discussions. I can report that the informal group agreed on the text of 2 draft decisions that are quite streamlined in concept. So under agenda item 13, on the issue of abating emissions of carbon tetrachloride, the decision can be found on CRP 21 on the portal. So it requests the TEEP, in cooperation with the SAP, to provide in its 2024 progress report an update on emissions of carbon tetrachloride, with a focus on a number of items listed in the draft decision. For agenda item 14B, on the issue of feedstock uses, the draft decision can be found in CRP 10. And similarly to the previous one, it requests the TEEP, in cooperation with the SAP, to provide in its next year's progress report an update on emissions from feedstock production as byproducts from feedstock uses, and includes a number of items listed in the decision. As co-facilitator to the informal group, I provide these draft decisions for consideration with a view to forward to the high-level segment. Mr. Co-Chair, on behalf of my co-facilitator Anna Maria and I would like to thank the participants who have constructively engaged on the issue during the week and have shown tremendous flexibility to accommodate the many different schedules of the participants. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Thank you, and very good to hear that 2 CRPs are ready to be sent to the higher level segment. And I would like to thank you and Anna Maria Kleinmeier from Micronesia for all your hard work. And indeed, you had a lot of micro meetings, and let's say it was more and more. But finally, you managed to get the CRPs done. So thank you for that. Is the room ready to send this to the high-level segment? Then it can be done, no objections. Then I would like to go to the other item on agenda item 17, strengthening Montreal Protocol institutions. First of all, I would like to hear a report back from the contact group on illegal trade. Who is going to report back? Please. Denmark, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. And I'm very happy to report that the group was able to come to an agreement on this CRP after a number of meetings this week. The CRP has been posted online on the portal as CRP5 Rev 1 with the title Further Strengthening the Montreal Protocol Institutions, including for combating illegal trade. The decision itself contains an encouragement to parties to facilitate the exchange of information on best practices to prevent illegal trade of controlled substances, and a request to the Secretariat to provide a compilation of that information to the parties. On behalf of the contact group, we would like to ask parties to consider forwarding this CRP to the high-level segment for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, and also very positive that this group could get to a positive outcome with a CRP. And I would like to thank you for all your hard work and your co-chair on Miruza Mohammed from the Maldives on all the good things you achieved. So is the room ready to send CRP 5 to the high-level segment, Rev 1? So it will be done. Then I would go to the informal discussions in the margins on the CRP 7 Rev 1 introduced by the EU on combating illegal trade and strengthening the Montreal Protocol institutions. Could I have a report back on the outcome of the informal discussions in the margins? Please. European Union.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Indeed, we had very fruitful exchanges on the CRP and are now at Rev 2 after a first series of comments and corrections. In particular, yesterday we addressed certain concerns that were voiced by a number of parties about the lengthy annex to this CRP, which reproduced the outcome of the work of the informal group in Bangkok, that we simplified by making clear that we would invite parties only to express their opinions, priorities, and needs on the topic discussed under this agenda point at the 45th Open-Ended Working Group. We maintain the request to the Secretariat to collect those contributions and to prepare a summary, a synthesis report of the replies. And thirdly, we would request the Ozone Secretariat to provide in the report, prepared in this synthesis report, background information on topics identified in this report. Drawing from previous work the Secretariat did, but also the Secretariat of the Multilateral Fund did work in this direction, but also the report from the working group would be sources for such a collection of information, background information, which could serve the parties to develop a long-term strategy to move forward to address issues contributing to the strengthening of the Montreal Protocol institutions. In the original and also in the revised version of this CRP, there's still a reference to a roadmap in the title. In the second revision, the title would read "Strengthening Montreal Protocol Institutions, Preparation of a Roadmap," but we have in the last, I must say, last half an hour, received some strong views that we should better remove the reference to the roadmap in here and leave it simply at the content. So this process of invitation to parties, synthesis report and background information provided by the protocol without specifying exactly the purpose, not to prejudge the further use of the information obtained. With this, I would like, I would welcome reactions from other parties and hope that we can forward this very concise decision for adoption to enable fruitful and enriched discussion on this very important item at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, EU, for informing us on the outcome of the discussions you had in the margins. And also, I would like to ask the room if you are ready to send this to the high-level segment with the, let's say, the changes that were just mentioned by the EU by leaving out the reference to a roadmap. Is that acceptable? United States of America.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. So it's not entirely clear from this intervention from the EU what their intention is regarding the Rev 2 of CRP 7 that is currently posted on the meeting portal. When we opened the document just now, we saw the title was Strengthening Montreal Protocol Institutions - Preparation of a Roadmap. But we believe that the EU just noted that they did not want to prejudge the outcome of such a decision or document produced by the Ozone Secretariat. So we're unclear whether they intended for this roadmap word to appear in the title of this draft decision. Looking down further through this decision, again, we see the preambular paragraph 3 mentions the development of a comprehensive roadmap. So again, it's unclear to us whether this preambular paragraph is intended to be in the decision that is forwarded or not. And unfortunately, we did not really have much time to discuss with the proponents of this CRP our opinions and views and perspectives on this text. So we have a number of questions actually about the language included in this decision. For example, in operating paragraph 1, it says to invite parties to share their views, experiences, potential needs, and priorities regarding strengthening Montreal Protocol institutions. For this delegation, we're unclear what the term potential needs would be referring to in this regard. So we have a number of questions about this decision as posted on the meeting portal, and at this time we are uncomfortable with moving it forward to the high level for adoption. Thank you.
I see, thank you, and I see the European Union asked for the floor.
Yes, just to thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Simply to clarify what I said before, after the uploading of the revision 2, we received additional comments from other parties, which led us to the conclusion that it would be better to delete the words preparation of a roadmap in the title, as well as the third preambular text paragraph. So simply to clarify this, the history of this development.
The UK has asked for the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. And we just want to thank the EU, first of all, for their time spent compiling this document. However, for this delegation, we are seeing this for the first time only this evening, and we don't feel like we've had sufficient time with which to reflect on all of the components of this document. Unfortunately, we would feel like we'd need a bit more time to be able to reflect and take in this new text which we're just seeing. And therefore, unfortunately, at the moment, we would not be able to support sending this to the high-level segment. Thank you.
Switzerland is asking for the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. We would like also to thank the EU for proposing this text. As mentioned, it is still new to us, but I recall that this is one of the products or one of the follow-ups that we had from a very, very fruitful and very open discussion. If I'm not wrong, even it was at OEWG for, was it 44? I don't remember, but it was it was OEWG 44 in Bangkok, and there was a spirit of considering issues that have been set aside due to a long list of activities that we had in the past, the Kigali Amendment and the pandemics. And in this very open discussion, we started to generate some very fruitful ideas. So this delegation would think that there would be some value in keeping this process alive, and we see that the CRP is an intention to do so. We are happy to contribute to the discussion when maybe a wording is found that is more convincing, is convincing to all of the parties. So I would also encourage parties here to dedicate themselves to lead. I'm tired. It's really today. Sorry. So yes, we think that's a good idea. Just keep on doing this with us, please. Thanks.
Thank you, Switzerland. I would like to have a few minutes. Also, that we still have a lot of items to go through this night, and due to the fact that there are, let's say, parties not ready to send this to the high-level segment, I would like to put forward that it will go for, let's say, next year for the OEWG at the agenda. So that's the proposal I would like to make at this stage, and I hope that's also agreeable to the EU. So also to be efficient in time, and we still have a lot of items to go through. I would like to go to the next agenda item. Agenda item European Union.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. We would like to have a clarification whether you wanted to send or forward the CRP to the next OEWG. In this case, we would rather prefer not to do so, but instead to put the agenda point on the agenda of the OEWG, because the CRP was intended to prepare the work for the next meeting of the party, and that is then better to be done by a targeted CRP prepared for this meeting, and not by the envisaged preparation of the roadmap. Thank you.
Thank you, and good to hear your clarification. Then it will be part of the agenda of the next OEWG, not the draft decision, but the agenda item on strengthening Montreal Protocol institutions, including combating illegal trade. Then I would like to go to the next item, 18. Identification of gaps in the global coverage of atmospheric monitoring of controlled substances. There was a CRP 6 Ref 1 on identification of gaps. It was introduced by the EU, and there were informal consultations in the margins. So if we could hear the report back from the EU on these discussions, please. EU.
Yes, thank you. Indeed, we had quite a good, a very good exchange with interested parties, which led to refinement the text. We uploaded a revision of this CRP, in particular working on the descriptions within the second paragraph, which calls for options or which demands the Secretariat to prepare options for funding to establish new regional monitoring capacities, and a description of the content. In the uploaded revision, a party discovered a linguistic flaw which should be corrected, and that would be including a comma in the second line and deleting the "of" in front of potential implementation options to make the sentence understandable. In principle, we ask the Secretariat to continue to report on activities carried out also by the Secretariat, and to make the results and the conclusions of this study, which is still ongoing until next year, available to all parties. On this basis, more information regarding the options to make and to fund, also to finance an extension of monitoring capacities would be carried out. This the result of those assessments should be discussed at the next meeting of the party. Thank you.
Thank you for reporting back. Then I would like to pose a very simple question to the room. Is CRP 6 Rev 1 that the EU just introduced or reintroduced and explained ready to be sent to the high-level segment? I don't see any objections, so that will be done. Then I would like to go to the agenda item RC United States.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. We were just looking at the revision 1 posted on the meeting portal, and we think there's some perhaps editing that needs to be done by the Secretariat before this is finalized, because it's a technical edit to fix the formatting for the decision. Currently decides is sort of in the wrong location, we think. The second preambular paragraph should actually be an operating paragraph. Thank you. Oh, so, and then, yes, we would be okay moving this decision forward to the high level if these technical edits are corrected. Thank you.
Thank you. I see the EU has the floor, but next to me the Secretary is already sees what has to be done. So EU.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Indeed, the placement of decides is wrong. It should come in the first line. The 35th meeting of the parties decide. And then, indeed, the first paragraph is an operating article. So after the preambular text, the first operative article starts with to request the Secretariat, And then usually the numbering of the following paragraphs would then be A and B, but that is something according to the to the practice of the thank you.
Thank you, and thank you also for looking very carefully how this text is drafted, and the secretaries will take care of that. So is this CRP then ready to be sent to the high-level segment with the changes to make it in the right format? I don't see any objections. Then I would like to go to the agenda item 19 on the restructuring of the talks. And there were some discussions in the margins on this, and I would like to hear the outcome of this. And who could I give the floor? United States, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Co-Chair. And the United States, the European Union, and Norway had expressed interest in looking at the item concerning the organization of the TEEP and its talks in response to the information in the progress report for the OEWG. The parties, the three of us, met on multiple occasions. We also had an opportunity to do some other consultation, and we came up with a very short text. Unfortunately, I do not know the number of the CRP. My apologies. But we would that CRP has an operating paragraph that asks that at the 47th meeting, that ahead of the 47th meeting, that the TEEP provide information on options, and in the meantime that they operate under the procedures that they outlined in the progress report. So we would ask that this decision be forwarded for adoption to the high level. Given we did not have much time this evening to quickly coordinate amongst the three parties, I hope that I have captured well this information. I can see one of them who nodded. I cannot see the other, so I will leave it there, and if there's any further comments, let them come in, but if not, we would like to see this decision forwarded to the high level. Thank you.
Thank you for this introduction, and very simple question, is this CRP 8 ready to be sent to the high level? I don't see any objections, so that will be done. Then I come to agenda item 20. That's also connected to the former agenda item. When we had reporting back yesterday on the informal group of panel nominations, it was already put forward that if there was an agreement on the future configuration of the RTOC, then a co-chair, Rajendra from the US, would serve for 4 years for the RTOC. So is that CRP 9, is that CRP 9 agreeable to the parties with this addition of this co-chair? I don't see any objections, so this can be put forward to the high-level segment, and then I'm through the items, and just wait a moment, we have to confirm. Just a very quick question. If there has been an outcome on agenda item 4 on the replenishment of the MLF, if there is a way forward, so maybe because we don't know what is the status, so Alain from Belgium or Sergio from Mexico, could you please indicate if a solution has been found, and if so, that we can hear it, and if not, that we can have a little dance here on the stage.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. So we are still discussing it for the time being, and we would like to ask you for a bit more time to continue those discussions. We had an opportunity to have a first exchange and maybe better understand what the situation is really, but we need a bit more time to coordinate and maybe find a way forward.
Okay, then thank you. Good to know. Then I think we change to the high level and come back to, let's say, the OEWG when there is an agreement on the replenishment. And the firm. The firm is, we can already, one moment. We can, is there agreement on the firm? That's also part of the replenishment contact group, and as far as we know there was agreement. So is there any objection to send that forward to the high level? There's no objection, so then there's one pending item.
So may we now invite Philippe Chamonix, please, from Canada, to come to preside over the high-level segment plenary, which we would like to start on now. The President had to leave because she has a flight to catch. So we have requested the Vice President, Mr. Philippe Chamonix, to preside over this plenary. Thank you.
Dear delegates, colleagues, and friends, welcome back to the 35th meeting of the parties. The President apologizes for not being able to be with you to guide you for towards the rest of the meeting. And I, as Vice President, was not expecting to be here, but it's my pleasure to be here, even though it's very much unexpected. We're at the stage now where we can move towards the adoption of the report of the 35th meeting of the parties. Now, that is agenda item 9 of the meeting of the parties. We will have to come back afterwards to cover agenda item 6, which is the report of the co-chairs of the preparatory segment and the adoption of the decisions, and then the closure of the meeting. But right now, I would direct you towards the report L1 and AD1 that have been posted on the Secretariat's website. And I will turn to the rapporteur of this meeting, Professor Mohamed Doseri, to guide us through the adoption of the report. Rapporteur, you have the floor.
Mr. President, the report that we are going to adopt is in the two documents L1 and L1/AD1. Both documents have been posted on the meeting portal. Document L1, which covers discussions from Monday, 23rd of October, 2023, to the morning of Wednesday, the 25th of October, 2023. These are available in all languages, while L1/AD1, which covers discussions from the afternoon of Wednesday, the 25th of October, 2023, to the morning of Thursday, 26th of October, 2023, is only available in English. This is because the time available for the preparation and the edition of the document did not make it possible to translate it to the other UN languages. You will note that some sections are yet to be completed. These will be included in the report after adoption. Now, I would like to go through this report for adoption, and all the corrections as well as the deliberations today will be included in the final report. And now we are going to cover the report according to the items, and allow me to take a number of paragraphs for adoption together on each item. And for any participants who would like to intervene for minor editorial comments, to go straight to the Secretariat here at the podium. After we finish adoption of the report, without giving any intervention. However, if there are specific and extensive corrections in any paragraph of the report, then please first request the floor to read out those corrections, and then provide the text to the Secretariat for proper reflection in the final report of the meeting. Now, we'll take document L1, and then we'll go to document L1/AD1. Now, we'll go to document L1. The first part covering the preparatory segment of our meeting. Are there any comments on paragraph 1? If there are none, it means that this paragraph is adopted. Section 1. Section 1. Opening of the meeting. Are there any comments on paragraphs from 2 to 5? If there are none, then they are approved. Section 2. Organizational matters. The paragraph from 6 to 8 are to be completed. Then, adoption of the agenda of the preparatory segment, paragraphs from 9 to 20. Any comments on these paragraphs? Are there any comments? Will the Secretariat have any comments?
Thank you. The Secretariat has received some editorial comments on paragraphs 16, 17, and 19. So we just want to assure the parties that those will be incorporated into the report. Thank you.
هذا يعني
So this means that you approve the paragraphs from 9 to 20.
الفقرة جيم.
Organization of work. Paragraph 21. Are there any comments on this paragraph? So this paragraph is approved. Section 3. Administrative matters. A. Budget of the Trust Fund for the Montreal Protocol and the financial reports. Paragraphs from 22 to 24. Are there any comments? If there are none, then these paragraphs are approved. Paragraph 25 is to be completed, and it will reflect the outcomes of the work of the Budget Committee. B. Consideration of the membership of Montreal Protocol bodies for 2024. Paragraph 26. Any comments on this paragraph? If there are none, then this paragraph is approved. Paragraph 27 is to be completed. Paragraph 28. Any comments on this paragraph? I see none, then it's approved. Paragraph 29 is to be completed. Paragraph 30. Any comments on this paragraph? Then it's approved. Paragraph 31 is to be completed. Section 4, replenishment of the Multilateral Fund for the implementation of the Montreal Protocol for 2024 to 2026. A, supplementary report of the Technology and the Economic Assessment Panel Replenishment Task Force. Paragraphs from 35 to 38. Are any comments? None? Therefore, they are approved. Paragraph 39 is to be completed. It will reflect the outcomes of the work of the contact group. B, extension of the fixed exchange mechanism for 2024-2026. Paragraphs from 40 to 42. Any comments? There are none, then they are approved. Paragraph 42 is to be completed. It will reflect the outcomes of the work of the contact group. Section 5. Potential areas of focus for the 2026 quadrennial reports, including the issue of synchronization with reports on alternatives to hydrofluorocarbons under Decision 28/2. Paragraphs 43 to 45. Any comments on these paras? No comments? Then they are approved. Paragraph 46 is to be completed. It will reflect the outcomes of the work of the contact group. Section 6. Stratospheric aerosol injection and the protection of the ozone layer. Paragraphs from 47 to 51. Any comments on these paragraphs? None? Then they are approved. Paragraph 52 is to be completed. It will reflect the outcomes of the work of the informal group. Section 7, Destruction Technologies, paragraphs 53 to 56. Are there any comments? None? Then they are approved. Paragraph 57 is to be completed. It will reflect the outcomes of the discussions in the informal working group. Section 8, very short-lived substances, including dichloromethane. Paragraphs 58 to 63. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? If there are none, then they are approved. Paragraph 64 is to be completed. It will reflect the outcomes of the discussions of the informal group. Section 9, hydrofluorocarbon 23, HFC 23 issues. A. Strengthening institutional processes with respect to information on HFC 23 byproduct emissions, report by the Technology and Economic Assessment Panel. Decision 34/7. Paragraphs 65 to 74. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? I see none, then they are approved. Paragraph 75 is to be completed. B. Emissions of HFC 23. Paragraphs from 76 to 79. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? I see none. Then they are approved. Paragraph 80 is to be completed, and it will reflect the outcomes of the work of the contact group. Section 9, potential impacts of the coronavirus disease COVID-19 pandemic on hydrofluorocarbon consumption for Group 1 parties operating under Paragraph 1 of Article 5. Proposed adjustments to the Montreal Protocol. Paragraphs from 81 to 85. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? I see none, then they are approved. Paragraph 86 is to be completed, and it will reflect the outcomes of the work of the contact group. Section 11, energy efficient and low or zero global warming potential technologies. Outcomes of the workshop on energy efficiency. Decision 34/3. Paragraph 4A. Paragraph 87 is to be completed. Section 12, shared responsibility to stop dumping of inefficient equipment containing obsolete refrigerants. Decision 34/4. Paragraphs 88 to 90. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? If there are none, then these are approved. Paragraph 91 is to be completed. Sections 13 to 26 are to be completed. As well as the section regarding the high-level segments. And now I would like to go to documents L1, Add 1. Part 1, Preparatory Segment. Section 1, Administrative Matters, paragraphs from 1 to 3. Any comments? The Honorable Delegate of the Russian Federation, please take the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Co-Chair. The delegation of Kyrgyzstan, which is being discussed in the section paragraphs 1, 2, and 3, unfortunately, was not in a position to remain here long enough until this was discussed. And this is why they asked our delegation to intervene on their behalf and share their proposal for your attention. Now, the thrust of this proposal is that paragraph 3 must be changed. We have to delete what is written in paragraph 3, as we did not discuss this issue at the high-level segment. We wanted to do so, but it didn't actually occur. And at the same time, the Secretariat and other interested parties undertook certain efforts to attempt to clarify this matter. This is why we would propose to have the following wording in paragraph 3. Interested sides, with the participation of the Secretariat, engaged in consultations and decided to preserve the status quo regarding the composition of the regional group of Eastern Europe and Central Asia. We hope that you will agree with this proposal. Thank you.
نأمل فضلا
So can you kindly provide the Secretariat with a written text so that it can be included in the final report of the meeting? Thank you very much.
نرغب أن يتفضل.
So, I would like to give the floor to the Chair. Please take the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rapporteur. The Czech Republic, in the position of a previous Bureau member at the time, participated to the meeting with the Secretariat, and we don't agree with this message because actually it wasn't the result of the meeting. The result of the meeting was that with Secretariat we will continue the work, and actually that we will work intersessionally with the defined UN region of Eastern European countries, and we will consider the message of Kyrgyzstan delivered to this group. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this intervention, and we kindly request you to provide the Secretariat with a written text so that it can be incorporated in the final report of the meeting. Section 3, the destruction technologies, paragraph 4 and 5. Are there any comments on these two paragraphs? I see none. Then they are approved. Section 3. Energy efficient and low or zero global warming potential technologies. Outcomes of the workshop on energy efficiency, decision 34/3, paragraph 4A. Paragraph 6 to 13. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? If there are none, then they are approved. Paragraph 14 is to be completed. It will reflect the outcomes of the informal discussions. Section 4. Issues related to exempted uses under the Montreal Protocol. A. Nomination for critical use exemptions for methyl bromide for 2024. Paragraphs 15 to 19. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? I see none. Then they are approved. B. Feedstock uses. Paragraphs 20 to 26. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? I see none. Then they are approved. Paragraph 27 is to be completed. It will reflect the outcomes of the discussions at the informal group. C. Quarantine and the pre-shipment uses of methyl bromide for which alternatives are available. Decision 34/10, paragraph 4. Paragraphs from 28 to 37. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? The European Union. Please take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Rapporteur. Yes, we have a comment. It relates to paragraph 29. In the second sentence of the paragraph, there is a reference stating had a higher ozone depleting potential than most HFCs, and that should be most HCFCs. And a few lines further, it refers to because two parties had considered that there were no alternatives. That part of the sentence should be deleted. We did not state that. So, because two parties had considered that there were no alternatives would need to be deleted. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we kindly request you to submit a written text to the Secretariat so that it can be included in the final report. Paragraph 38 is to be completed. Section 5. Future availability of halogens and their alternatives. Paragraphs 39 to 43. Are there any comments? If there are none, then they are approved. Section 6. Refrigerant life cycle management. Paragraphs 44 to 53. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? Norway. Please take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Rapporteur. Regarding paragraph 53, I just would like to point out that I did not co-chair this contact group, and I do not want to take all the credit from Martin from the Netherlands that did an excellent job getting us this decision together with his co-chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this intervention. Kindly provide the Secretariat with a written text. Paragraph 54 is to be completed, so it will reflect the outcomes of the work of the contact group. Section 7, strengthening Montreal Protocol institutions, including for combating illegal trade. Decision 34/8. Paragraphs 55 to 66. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? I see none, then they are approved. Paragraph 67 is to be completed. Section 8, identification of gaps in the global coverage of atmospheric monitoring of controlled substances and options for enhancing such monitoring. Decisions 33/4 and 34/5. Paragraphs 68 to 75. Are there any comments? I see none. Then they are approved. Paragraph 76 is to be completed. Section 9. Existing challenges and potential options for the future configuration and function of the Technology and Economic Assessment Panel's Technical Options Committees. Decision 34/11. Paragraphs 77 to 80. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? If there are none, then they are approved. Paragraph 81 is to be completed. Section 10. Consideration of nominations by parties of experts to the Scientific Assessment Panel and the Technology and Economic Assessment Panel. Paragraphs 82 to 89. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? If there are none, then they are approved. I would like to give the floor to Chile.
Muchas gracias, señor relator. Me gustaría.
Thank you. I would like to correct my name in paragraph 89, please. Thank you.
شكرا على هذا التعليق.
Thank you very much. Kindly provide a written text to the Secretariat so that the name can be corrected in the final report.
ربما لاحظت
Parties may have noted that there is no section 11. This is an error and it will be corrected. Section 12. Compliance and data reporting issues. The work and recommendations of the Implementation Committee under the non-compliance procedure for the Montreal Protocol. Paragraphs from 91 to 99. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? If there are none, then they are approved. Section 13. Status of ratification of the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol. Paragraphs 100 to 103. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? If there are none, then they are approved. Section 12, Other Matters. You will note that the numbering of this section is incorrect. This error will be corrected in the final report. Paragraphs 104 to 107. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? If there are none, then they are approved. Part 2. High-level segments. Section 1. Opening of the high-level segments. Paragraph 108. Are there any comments on this paragraph? If there are none, then this paragraph is approved. A. Statement by the President of the 34th meeting of the parties to the Montreal Protocol. Paragraphs 109 to 112. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? If there are none, then these paragraphs are approved. B. Statement by a representative of UNEP. Paragraphs 113 to 115. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? No comments. Then these will be approved. C. Statement by the representative of the government of Kenya. Paragraphs 116 to 118. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? No comments. Then they are approved. Section 2. Organizational matters. A. Election of officers for the 35th meeting of the parties to the Montreal Protocol. Paragraph 119. Are there any comments on this para? If there are none, then it's approved. B. Adoption of the agenda of the high-level segments. Paragraph 120. Any comments? No comments on this paragraph, then it's approved. C. Organization of work. Paragraph 121. Are there any comments on this para? No comments. Then it's approved. D. Credentials of representatives. Paragraph 122 is to be completed. Section 3. Presentations by the assessment panels on their synthesis reports on the 2022 Quadrennial Assessment. Paragraphs 123 to 134. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? I see none. Then these are approved. Section 4. Presentation by the Chair of the Executive Committee of the Multilateral Fund for the implementation of the Montreal Protocol on the work of the Executive Committee, the Multilateral Fund Secretariat, and the Fund's implementing agencies. Paragraph 135 to 136. Are there any comments on these paragraphs? I see none. Then these are approved. Section 5 and 2:11 are to be completed. At the end, we have come to the end of approving the meeting report as contained in documents 35/L1 and 35/L1 add 1. Thank you so much for your listening.
مندوب شيلي تفضل.
I would like to give the floor to the delegate of Chile.
Relator.
Thank you, Rapporteur. Before adopting the report, I need clarification. When we were reviewing the L1 Addendum 1, in the first section on administrative matters, in the third paragraph, you noted, if I'm not wrong, that the comments of the Russian Federation and Czechia were submitted to the Secretariat so that they would be incorporated into the report. So the clarification I'm requesting is where in the report they will be incorporated. Because those were made by those two state parties which I mentioned earlier. Thank you.
نتمنى تزويد الأمانة بما رميتم إليه من ملاحظات في إعادة.
You are going to be able to contact the Secretariat to include these comments in the right place in the report in light of your comments. And we thank you all for your attention.
مندوب شيلي مرة أخرى.
Señor relator, con todo el debido respeto, yo le estoy preguntando a usted en su que ha solicitado.
So, who has requested the incorporations of those comments in the meeting? Well, those comments were requested to be incorporated. In which section of the report will they be incorporated? The report of the meeting needs to reflect what has happened within this room. Therefore, my suggestion would be that those statements from those two countries be incorporated at the end of the report so that the report accurately reflects what has happened within the meeting. So that's my question to you, Rapporteur. Thank you.
سنعمل على ملاحظة والتأكيد.
We are going to incorporate the comments, all of the comments which were made during this reading of the report. So we heard various comments, and all of them will be incorporated.
Thank you, distinguished delegate from Chile. The comments that were made with respect to the administrative matters will be incorporated, as you indicated, at the end of the report as part of the statements that were made during the adoption of the report. Thank you.
مرة أخرى شكرا على وصلنا إلى نهاية.
So, again, we have reached the end of this report. We've adopted it as it is contained in document Ad 1, and we thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rapporteur, for your efficient presentation and adoption of the report. Now I have to inform you that we're going to be losing interpretation in a few minutes, and we just want to confer a couple of minutes with the rapporteur to figure out the way forward. Thank you. Thank you, delegates. We will now move to agenda item 9, which is the adoption of decisions by MOP35. We will be adopting all the decisions except, for now, the decision on replenishment. For this decision, where we have to revert to the preparatory segment, adopt the decision under the preparatory segment, and then return to the high level to formally adopt it. All the other decisions have been forwarded by the co-chairs of the preparatory segments and are contained in document L2. And I will turn the floor again to the rapporteur so that he can guide us through the adoption of those decisions. Rapporteur, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Okay. Now we will transfer to the where is it?
Interpretation is now finished. Thank you.
Parties will note that the draft decisions for the considerations and adoption of the 35th meeting of the parties have been complied. Document L2 that is available on the meeting portal with the permission of the President. I will now go through each of the draft decision and invite the 35th meeting of the parties and adopt each of one of these decisions. A, draft decision, membership of the implementation committee. Item number 1 up to 3. That's mean there is no, that's mean it's, we agree to, we agree to these items. B, draft decision, membership of the executive committee of the multilateral fund. Item number 1 to 3. 1, 2, 3. That's mean we agree. C, draft decision, co-chairs of the open-ended working group of the parties of the Montreal Protocol. That's mean we agree. D, draft decision, extension of the fixed exchange rate mechanisms to the 2024-2026 replenishment of the multilateral fund. Number 1 up to 7. Item 1 to 7. That's mean we agree. Draft decision, potential areas. I can't see very well. Focus for the 2026 quadrennial reports of the Environmental Effects Assessment Panel, the Scientific Assessment Panel, and the Technology and Economic Assessment Panel. Item number 1 up to 7. That's mean we agree. F, draft decision, stratospheric aerosol injection and protection of ozone layer. Item 1 and 2. That's mean we agree. D, draft decision, destruction technologies for controlled substances. Item number 1 up to 3. That's mean we agree. Draft decision, updated information on very short life substances. A and B. That's mean we agree. Draft decision, emissions of HFC 23. Item 1 to 5. That's mean we agree. Draft decision addressing and impact of the coronavirus disease, COVID-19. Item number 1 up to 2. We agree. K, draft decision energy efficiency. We agree. L, the import and export of prohibited cooling equipment. 1 and 2. Agree. Adapting emissions of carbon tetrachloride. We agree. Critical use exemptions for methyl bromide for 2024. One up to 4. Agree. Feedstock uses. We agree. On life cycle refrigerants management. Agree. Further strengthening Montreal Protocol institutions, including the combating legal trade. Agree. Enhancing the global and regional atmospheric monitoring of substances controlled by the Montreal Protocol. Agree. Options for the organization of the Technology and Economic Assessment Panel and its technical options committees. Agree. Membership change on the Scientific Assessment Panel, the Environmental Effects Assessment Panel, and the Technical and Economic Assessment Panel. Agree. That data and information provided by the parties in accordance with Article 7 of the Montreal Protocol. Agree. Non-compliance in 2021 with the provisions of the Montreal Protocol governing consumption and production of the controlled substances in Annex 6, Group I, the hydrochlorofluorocarbons by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Agree. Status of the establishment of licensing systems under Article 4B, Paragraph 2, bis of the Montreal Protocol. Agree. status of ratification of the Kigali amendment of to the Montreal Protocol. Agree. 36th meeting of the parties to the Montreal Protocol. Agree. Financial reports and budgets for the Montreal Protocol in substance that deplete of the ozone layer. Agree. Having completed the adoption of the decision, I now turn the floor over back to the presidents of this meeting.
Thank you. Acting President, yes. So thank you very much for going through the adoption of the decision, except the one on replenishment, which is pending. And thank you, delegates, for your patience through the adoption of the report and the draft decision. We'll now pause the high-level segment, and I will turn the floor back to the co-chairs so that we can finish the work under the preparatory segment. Thank you.
Thank you. There's one item remaining in the open-ended working group that we have to deal with. That's the replenishment of the multilateral fund for the triennium 2024-2026. And I would like to ask the co-chairs to report what was the outcome of the deliberations. Please, Belgium.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. So we had some consultation at the back of the room, as you recommended. We had several consideration and consultation among ourselves during this end of the meeting, and as we have found a way maybe to get out of this situation, and in a very constructive spirit of compromise, it's proposed to remove the second paragraph of the decision as it stands for the time being, and allow by this movement to agree on the final decision on the replenishment, which we know is of a very big importance for many A5 parties, but also for A2 parties contributing to the fund, because we have the feeling that it's not the moment maybe to defer further this decision. So the idea is just to remove the second paragraph and keep the rest of the text as it is. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Thank you, and I'm quite happy to hear that a solution has been found and that was agreeable to the parties that took part in your group. And now I would like to ask parties, is this draft decision ready to be sent to the high-level segment? I don't see any objections. Oh, United States. I see some requests for the floor. United States, Spain, and the United Kingdom. United States, please.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. We do not object to moving this forward to the high level, but This delegation does wish to intervene to make a few points. First, to say that we are deeply disappointed that Russia only raised these objections at the final session of the plenary. They were not raised earlier in the meeting, nor did they avail themselves of the many, many discussions throughout this meeting where these issues could have been raised. In doing so, they have effectively put at risk and threatened blocking the replenishment decision, which happens to be the most important issue at this meeting that is most critical to the continued effective functioning of the Montreal Protocol and its multilateral fund. I would also note that despite what was said, this is not a 2-year contribution issue for the Russian Federation. This underfunding of pledges has been going on routinely for 3 decades. It's 30 years of underfunding pledges. As I noted, $125 million is the consequence of this to the Multilateral Fund. Finally, on this and my prior interventions on this topic, I reflect that they be reflected in detail in the meeting report. Thank you.
Thank you. And your request has been noted to have your comments in detail in the report. Spain.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Spain, on behalf of the European Union and its member states, would like to state the following to the decision on the replenishment of the Multilateral Fund, on the same lines of the United States. We, the 27 member states, are disappointed with this resolution, in which Russia has proposed a change in point 2 of the decision, deleting from parties with economies in transition. We believe these words should remain, and it has been there in other replenishment decisions fitting for a purpose. So in other replenishment decisions, the same point and same paragraph has been there. It is then disappointed that Russia raised this point at this stage, and the only reason for us to agree to its deletion has been that the replenishment decision can then be enforced and meet its objectives. We would like also that this statement keep in the records. Thank you.
Thank you. And also your request has been noted and will be in the records. United Kingdom.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Likewise, we do not wish to block this being adopted. However, the UK believes that this paragraph should remain. It is in line with what we have done in past replenishment decisions, and it is simply factual in its content. As a way of moving forward, and in order to support A5s in meeting their compliance obligations, we are only agreeing to its deletion so that the replenishment decision can be forwarded to the high-level segment. It is with great regret that this is the path we must move forward with, after a long week of negotiations and many months of prior work from both the task force and parties to achieve the largest replenishment settlement in the Montreal Protocol's history. It is also disappointing that this concern was only raised now and not throughout the week. We would also like our points to be noted in the meeting report. Thank you.
Thank you, UK, and your comments will be noted in the report. Norway.
Thank you, Co-Chair. We can agree to the deletion of the paragraph, but only because it enables us to send forward this draft decision to the high-level segment for adoption of the largest replenishment of the multilateral fund. However, we would like to express our disappointment with removing the second paragraph from the draft decision, since we understand it has been practiced over many years to use this text and reflect those figures. And we are also disappointed that this issue was not raised earlier during the meeting. This would have allowed us more time to consider carefully the views that different parties expressed on this issue. Thank you, Co-Chair.
Thank you, Norway. Then I have on my list Russian Federation, Japan, and Canada. Are there more speakers on the list? Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. First of all, I would like to inform you that during the consultations, we suggested the wording to leave these item 2 and just to reflect the total amount of outstanding contributions, meaning for all countries which have these outstanding contributions, without mentioning the countries with economy in transition. From our point of view, for the parties is much more interested what is the total amount of outstanding contribution than just the outstanding, so-called outstanding contributions of a small group of countries. Then I have no words to describe the situation when one country imposes illegal sanctions against another country, blocking all of its US dollars transactions, and simultaneously including in the document a debt of the country in question in relation to the blocked payment in US dollars. Those are very inconsistent actions. How can we agree with this? And finally, we hope that our interventions and explanations will be reflected in the report in details as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Your comments will be reflected in detail in the report. Then I have Japan on my list.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Japan also shares the disappointment expressed by the other delegates at the last-minute request of deletion of the second paragraph, as we have made tremendous efforts to reach an agreement. As previous speakers stated, the paragraph 2 is factual and traditionally referred to, and therefore Japan also considered that it should have remained. However, Japan would also agree with its deletion only to make the replenishment to move forward and get ready to work together with A5 and other countries in order to facilitate implementation of the Montreal Protocol towards achieving our common goals. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Thank you. And then I have Canada and Switzerland on my list. First, Canada, please.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. It is with great disappointment and reluctance that this delegation accepts the deletion of paragraph 2 in the decision, but only for this to allow for this decision on a historical replenishment of the multilateral fund to be submitted to the high-level segment. As many previous speakers have stated, this body has been working very hard throughout the week to secure such financing, historical financing, to help A5s achieve the objectives of this protocol. We are disappointed that we have to remove a paragraph that has been included in many previous decisions, but we do so in order for the Montreal Protocol family to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Canada. Then I have Switzerland on my list, please. Switzerland.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Switzerland will not block the decision. We are looking at a historical replenishment, and we are looking first at the solidarity to support A5 countries in their implementation of the Montreal Protocol and the Kigali Amendment. But we are deeply disappointed. This should not be represent any precedent for any other MEA in the future. As it was mentioned by the United States, this is not a recent legacy, this is a very long one. And we do believe for the functioning of any MEA, countries that have arrears should pay and find a way to pay them out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. After these statements, I would like to again ask if there are any objections to forward this draft decision on the replenishment of the multilateral fund to the high-level segment. I don't see any objections, so this can be forwarded to the high-level segment. Before we close this preparatory meeting, on behalf of my co-chair, I would like to thank you all. We achieved to have so many decisions as this very challenging MOP. Not only we managed the 12 years each, and both the 3 years replenishment and 4 years quadrennial assessment with the two come together. Also, the decisions, a lot of new decisions were on new emergent topics, and old comrades were agreed. In the spirit of the Montreal Protocol family, we were able to listen and to look for solutions, and that worked very well. And we also had fun at the reception, and the reception was a perfect place to mingle, dance, and laugh. And that in this beautiful green Gigiri compound of the UN. Nature is very much nearby. I love that. I would like to thank all of you, the Ozone Secretariat, Meg, all the co-chairs of the contact group, informal groups, and all the people who are involved in the informal discussions and chaired. I also would like to thank interpretation and all the people who helped during this conference. Finally, I would like to say thank you to Jürgen Usinger for all the good work he did for decades in the Montreal Protocol. Dankeschön. And finally, because it's late, I would say once again, Asante Sana. Thank you in Kiswahili. Now we can close this part of the meeting and go to the high-level segment.
Okay, so delegates, we're now back to the high-level segment, and we have before us the adoption of the decision on the replenishment of the Multilateral Fund. Can we agree to adopt this decision? Adopted. So that brings us to the closure of the meeting. But just before we close the meeting, I've been asked to give the floor to the Ozone Secretariat to say a few words. Ozone Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I requested for the floor to appreciate actually two persons that are leaving from the Ozone family due to retirement. The co-chair, Ralph, already mentioned. Firstly, it's Mr. Jürgen Usinger of Germany, who is leaving after almost 30 years of supporting the Montreal Protocol as part of the delegation of Germany. He will start his well-deserved retirement next month. Jürgen started participating in Montreal Protocol meetings as early as 1995. He always claims that he has spent 3 years of his lifetime in Montreal, especially in ExCom meetings, without having lived there full-time. He was highly respected by colleagues from both Article 5 and non-Article 5 parties, and in Europe, he was always the go-to person for visionary approaches, calculations, or budgets. As such, he was involved in numerous replenishment negotiations, and one of the highlights of his career was the successful negotiations for the Kigali Amendment. He will leave behind a big gap, difficult to fill. The Ozone family will miss his experience, knowledge, and patience when explaining and tackling issues. We wish Jürgen good luck in his new phase of life that can now be fully dedicated to himself, family and friends, and to the little farm where he lives. The second person to appreciate is Keiichi Onishi of Japan, co-chair of the Medical and Chemical Options Committee. He was appointed to the co-chair's position in Decision 2311 of the parties adopted in 2011. After many years of dedicated service to the Montreal Protocol, Dr. Keiichi Onishi is stepping down from his role as the co-chair of MC Talk and going on to a well-deserved retirement. On behalf of the parties and the Ozone Secretariat, I would like to express our sincere appreciation for the invaluable contributions Keiichi made to the Technology and Economic Assessment Panel. We are honored to have worked with him, and we are very grateful for his outstanding service throughout the years. We will miss Keiichi and his in-depth expert knowledge and kind, warm personality. We wish Keiichi all the best for the relaxed and enjoyable retirement. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Executive Secretary, and I also want to extend my appreciation and wish the best to Jürgen, who I already said goodbye to at the ExCom meeting, but happy to wish you the best again. To Kaneshi of Japan of the MC Talk, best wishes. And of course to Paul Newman, wonderful co-chair of the SAP, where I understand now will pursue an acting career as the new Paul Newman. That brings us to the end of our meeting, which has been a very busy one. We worked through numerous proposals, decisions by many parties, and we have taken very important decisions on the Quadrennial Assessment Panel and, of course, on the replenishment of the Multilateral Fund. I think this has been a very busy week. We are now all exhausted, at least those of us who remain in the room, so I won't keep you longer, but before saying goodbye, I see that Spain has actually requested the floor. So, Spain.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. I would like to tell you by a few minutes a few words of gratitude. Spain, on behalf of the European Union and its member states, expresses gratitude to the UNEP Secretariat for the splendid hosting of this meeting in the UNEP headquarters in Nairobi. Let us thank the co-chairs and co-facilitators for guiding us through this complex meeting. With their strong will, we have achieved constructive conclusions. Our sincere thanks to the Secretariat for their invaluable work on preparing and running this meeting. And we want also to take the opportunity to thank someone special in her professional career. The 35 MOP will be the last meeting for a very passionate and productive person who has worked in the Montreal Protocol for a long time, Cecilia Mercado. Cecilia Mercado, first at UNEP and then at the MLF, has been working in assisting the EXCOM members and the Article 5 countries with high professionalism and competence. We have had a very productive and constructive week, and the Montreal Protocol family have once again delivered on our commitment to protecting and healing the ozone layer. The result of this commitment has been reflected in the approval of many important decisions that will shape the future of the ozone protection. We would like to highlight that we sat together and discussed the level of the replenishment of the fund, this time for the triennium 2024 and 2026, and we have been able to allocate stable funding for the next 3 years, paving the way for the implementation of the Kigali Amendment. Indeed, this will not only contribute to protecting the ozone layer, but also enhance the climate benefits of the Kigali Amendment. It is also remarkable the good agreement reached on the terms of reference of the Quadrennial report, which will provide more knowledge in the future for the protection of the ozone layer and prevention of the climate change, as well as wide view of the alternatives we want to promote in the future. And also we welcome the approval of a decision of life cycle management of refrigerants, which will help to manage better the life of the equipment containing HCFCs or HFCs. Also keeping in mind it is essential to continue sharing information on the use of ozone-depleting substances and greenhouse chemicals as feedstocks and very soft-leach substances. To summarize, effective multilateral cooperation based on mutual respect is crucial for protecting our planet and the people. Our hard work proves the benefits that this multilateral cooperation can have towards achieving global environmental objectives. Indeed, as we all know, the Montreal Protocol is the most successful global environmental treaty, and if we sustain our vision and hard work, we are certain it shall continue to be. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Spain. That was all very interesting, but now I think the Montreal Protocol family needs to get some rest. Wish you all a safe return home. Declare this meeting closed and look forward to seeing all of you at the next meeting. Thank you.